The Volt switch is tearing apart Tapu Fini. The opponent switches out into Charizard, sacrificing it to the Pokegods. It's going to be hi Charizard, bye Charizard. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing something different around here. My last video flopped. It was one of the worst videos I've done in an absolute eternity. To be honest, YouTube is so difficult for a smaller content creator like myself. I've tried to bring you some of the newly buffed Pokemon. However, the big content creators are always quicker than I am. So today we're going to be doing something fully anti-meta. Not only do the big content creators outpace me putting out this new content, they also like to put together these top teams in the Open Ultra League. So I looked through all of them and I thought to myself, stuff like Virizion and Strelix that people are saying is almost an unbreakable core. Do you know what beats that core? This little Slurpuff that I made last season's hit legend with. I went on a 19 1-5 run. I gained 186 elo on the first day. After using a huge amount of resources power up, I've never used it since. However, it's looking pretty good in this meta. So fuck it, today we put it back to work. You wouldn't be on my channel if I wasn't going to use a Shadow Pokemon. A few seasons ago I powered up Shadow Magneton for the UL Weather Cup. Again, I've never used it since. It got access to Volt Switch, so today we're also going to be testing that out. The pairing of Slurpuff and Magneton are going to be incredibly weak to something like Swampert, a Pokemon I call the GOAT. So rounding the team off, we're going to have Chesnaught. I needed something that would be able to handle top meta threats like Jellicent, Swampert, the other water types, and also has play against Steel. The obvious pick is Virizion, but we don't use BBML on this channel. I've got a rank 1 Chesnaught, so I powered it up, and that's where we're at. And let me tell you, despite this team being pretty lowly ranked on PvPoke, Chesnaught is the most meta pick and is ranked 98th. Magneton is ranked at 176 and Slurpuff 224. However, you don't have to beat the whole meta. All you've got to beat is what you see. And today we managed to pull off some incredible wins. If you enjoy my content and you want to see me back posting more regularly, smash that like button, because I'll be honest, if this gets no views, I'm going to take a break. Without any further ado, let's get into the battles. And in game 1, we lead Magneton into Jellicent. This Jellicent is running Bubble, probably because everyone's petrified of Strelix. The opponent didn't build up to a Shadow Ball, they actually went for the Bubble Beam. Probably not the moveset you are looking for, although Bubble Beam is super annoying. I then throw 2 further Volt Switches and the Discharge for optimal fast move timing. The opponent brings out Poliwrath, I bank my energy, pivot out into Slurpuff, and like I said in the intro, Slurpuff is core breaking backlines. The irony of this situation is we're a fairy, the opponent's a steel type, and we are in the driver's seat. The opponent goes straight for a break-in swipe. That, sir, is double resisted. The cupcake might look small and cute, but no double resisted move is anything to fear. We continue to fire off flamethrowers. Strelix now getting down into the red. We make 1 further flamethrower. Is the opponent willing to invest a Protect Shield? Yes, they are. The opponent this time has built up to the Earthquake, however Strelix hits like a wet noodle. We tank the Earthquake like an absolute boss and we pivot out into Chesnaught. Back out comes Poliwrath, they fire off the Ice Punch. Chesnaught shrugs off the damage. The opponent now only has 1 Protect Shield, 2 hide behind. We're going to shield up the next Ice Punch. We've just got to farm up to the back-to-back Frenzy plants. You know the drill. The first one will be forcing the final Protect Shield, and the second one will be vanquishing Poliwrath back to their Pokeball. It's going to be hi Poliwrath, bye Poliwrath. Get fucking wrecked. When Strelix does return, we're going to smash him in the face with that superpower, and the opponent concedes the match. Moving on to the next one, dreadful lead. And if I thought the lead was bad, what the heck is on my screen? My missus actually uses Heat Ran, and I always tell her it's a fucking potato in the Ultra League. However, the irony is that it's absolutely dreadful for my Chesnaught save switch. However, I tank the charge move, farm up to the back-to-back superpowers. The first one forces the Protect Shield, and the second one does big damage to Heat Ran. Things still not looking fantastic, as I don't want to come in with Slurpuff, as Fairy Wind's going to do absolutely nothing, and the opponent is going to reach a charge move. So I'm going to give my shield back, commit to the full Volt Switch farm down, bank some energy and once again hope that my little cupcake core breaks the back line. Back out comes Haxorus and the opponent's got Cresselia in the back. Cresselia so bulky. Play rough, a pretty decent move, but my god, that tickled. One of the good things about playing Ultra League is you've got a lot of time to think, how the fucking heck do I win this battle? Because to be honest, Slurpuff Cresselia is not an advantageous matchup for me, and Haxorus against Magneton is also dreadful. However, as these matches are so long, you've got a bit of wiggle room. We're going to shield up the next Moonblast. I'm hoping my switch timer pops up. It hasn't popped up yet, so I'm going to fire off the play rough. One before the opponent reaches the next Moonblast. I'm going to instantly pivot. The opponent hold their energy, switch out into Haxorus. And the opponent, just like that, gives me a win con. Haxorus gets one shot vanquished. Back to their Pokeball. Back out comes Cresselia. They fire off the Moonblast. We shrug it off. And despite alignment being absolutely dreadful, we're going to take that game. GG's and thanks for playing. Who was worried? In the next battle, we see the battle of the steel types. My Volt Switches are double resisted. We resist the Dragon Tails. The opponent goes straight for a break-in swipe. So I'm going to tank the charge move as it does absolutely nothing. And then I'm going to pivot into Slurpuff. The opponent stays in, build up some energy, and they actually choose to debuff me. We'll take the debuff. I think it's a waste of energy, but you do you, trainer. The opponent then send out Cresselia. So if you thought it was bad last time, when we was not debuffed, this play rough absolutely does fuck all. Holy smokes, it's going to take about 56 to take this thing out. So in hindsight, all the opponent's done is just guaranteed that they're going to get the alignment that they want, as there is zero chance I'm going to flip this matchup. We tank the Moonblast, return fire with another play rough. You can see Cresselia is going to be able to tank two more. As they misalign the switch time, I'm going to choose to tank the Moonblast onto Magneton. The opponent is staying in. You see I pause the turn to wait for the Psycho Cut to come through. We force a Protect Shield with the Magnet Bomb. The opponent does get their switch timer up. We're going to fire off one more Magnet Bomb to get some solid chip damage onto Strelix, getting them down to around the yellow. We have managed to heavily misalign the switch timer, so allow it to cool down just a touch, then bring back out Slurpuff. This Flamethrower not going to be lethal, but is going to get him down into the red. The opponent again go for a break-in swipe. I'm hoping after they fire this off, switch timer is going to pop up and it's now time for Chesnaught. We get the Vine Whip farm down. Chesnaught hasn't usually got a good matchup against Cresselia. However, Cresselia getting pretty close to Frenzy Plant range. Frenzy Plant won't knock out, but will put him into the red. This is the first time I've ever used Chesnaught in Ultra League. I've never even seen one in action, if I'm being brutally honest. However, I hope after tanking this Moonblast, I'm going to be able to Vine Whip farm them all the way down. We commit to the Vine Whip farm down. Stay in school, kids. Learn to count. I'm not shielding a Grass Knot. Grass Knot does absolutely nothing. The opponent's final Pokemon is everyone's favourite bug type Gliscopod. However, unlike most bugs, Gliscopod is part water, which means grass hits for heavy neutral damage. I'm going to shield up the X-Scissor. I'm going to return fire with Frenzy Plant number 2, which will be forcing the final Protect Shield. We're going to CMP tie to the next charge move, as I only just powered up Chesnaught, and I'm an absolute noob who doesn't really check Pokemon. I just power them up and hope for the best. I don't know if I win CMP, so I choose to catch the charge move onto Slurpuff. We come back into Chesnaught, fire off the Frenzy Plant, and that is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. Moving on to the next battle. Big yikes. We're going to save switch into Slurpuff, which is a losing matchup. However, speaking of losing matchups, having a Fairy running Play Rough and Flamethrower against Tentacle is about as bad as it gets. Slurpuff does have access to Energy Ball, which would mean stuff like Swampert and Tentacle would be more playable. However, I think you definitely want to opt for Play Rough and Flamethrower. If you get stuck in a matchup like this, it is what it is. Tentacle Poison Jab farmed us all the way down, which is brutal. I send back out Magneton. The opponent throws one Poison Jab and the charge move, optimal fast move timing, despite them being at 100 energy. A very nice play from the opponent. I'm going to shield the next goal, commit to the full Volt Switch farm down, and it's time to pivot. What can Chesnaught beat? Down a shield. We send out Chesnaught. The opponent does stay in. Is Chesnaught a core breaker? Please, for the love of God, have something else weak to Chesnaught. The opponent chipped me with a Hydro Cannon. They're continuing to stay in. Surely not. It's really unfortunate this isn't a Shadow Swamp, but you can see I don't really want to take another Hydro Cannon, so I'm going to be forced to throw the Frenzy Plant. The opponent saving 2 shields, whatever they've got in the back, and it's Dobwall. Okay, this could be playable. The Superpower would be super effective, but the Frenzy Plant's going to land for heavy neutral damage. I'm going to be forced to burn my final Protect Shield here. I'm then going to throw 4 Vine Whips and the charge move, hoping the opponent is spamming out their move. The opponent's now going to receive the energy for the Body Slam. I switch, try and get the CMP sack. The opponent takes the extra. I think if I would have got the CMP sack, even if the opponent undercharged, would have done too much damage to Magneton. You can see we actually die at the charge move as well. The opponent held their energy, and we're going to lose a close game, despite being pretty hard countered. GG's to that opponent. I think looking back, I could have actually thrown one further Vine Whip and then switched, anticipated the opponent throwing at good time, and in the next battle, We see Magneton into Tapu Fini, the opponent switches out into Charizard, sacrificing it to the Pokegods. It's straight in and straight out. The opponent send back out Tapu Fini and I pivot into Chesnaught. The opponent build up to a potential Moonblast. I will respect that the opponent is not baiting. They full send the Moonblast. I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Frenzy Plant while Chesnaught is still switch locked. Frenzy Plant secures the knockout and the opponent's got this really annoying alligator in the back, which actually beats the entirety of my team. The one good thing is that Frenzy Plant is such a busted move. Despite it being resisted, this second Frenzy Plant is going to get it down below half health and the opponent still isn't shielding. Trainer, give me a shield. The opponent's in the red with 2 shields, and unfortunately for me, we've got a Fairy Wind user that's going to apply 0 fast move pressure. However, as they've got 2 shields, I am going to commit to the fast move beatdown. I doubt the opponent baits. We will shield the first move. The opponent full send the Shadow Ball. I'm still not going to throw a charge move. We're just going to continue to stay in. The opponent going to likely fire off a Shadow Ball. They're then going to be 1 Incinerate away from the Disarming Voice. We throw 2 Fairy Winds, switch to Magneton. They throw the Disarming Voice. Magneton shrugs it off and the Volt Switch secures the knockout and the opponent saved 2 shields for next season. Moving on to the next one. Magneton into Gracelia, and this is one of the best examples you're ever going to see of stat product. We hit the neutral the entirety of the time. The opponent can only hit us 4 resisted, but my god, that Future Sight hit like a fucking truck. We fire off the Magnet Bomb, forcing a Protect Shield. Again, the opponent throw on alignment. Surely we survive a Grass Knot. Fucking hell, Magneton, you let me down there, buddy. We go down with a whole heap of energy. However, we've got shield advantage. I'm going to send in Slurpuff. I've got a sneaky feeling the opponent's going to bait me with a Grass Knot. We don't shield the first move. We're going to return fire with the Play Rough, but again, this Gracelia is so thick. We're still going to need to throw yet another Play Rough. I think a Flamethrower probably wouldn't get the job done. We respect the potential Future Sight the second time. Again, I don't want to leave this thing on 1 HP in a dream, so I'm going to go for the safe play. Full sending the Stab Play Rough. The opponent actually commit a shield. Holy smokes, what the heck do you have behind this crest? As the opponent shielded, I will match shields as I think they're likely to throw a Future Sight, which they do. I'll be honest, I'm used to using exclusively Shadow Pokemon, so I'm worried that Slurpuff would hit like a wet noodle. This time Flamethrower is the correct play. I think last time it probably would have knocked out of me, and brutally honest, however, I just got scared. Like an absolute pansy, the opponent sends out Greninja. They get 1 shot vanquished, back to their Pokeball, and you can chalk this team up as another team core broken by Slurpuff. Their final Pokemon is a Dragon Breath Giratina. We land the Play Rough, pivot out into Chesnaught, and the opponent sees the writing on the wall. Shout out to my factions teammate Homeslice Henry for that quote, and they concede the match. Moving on to the next one. Magneton into Charizard. This is the bait game. Blast Burn will one-shot Dragonclaw be resisted. We correctly shield up the Blast Burn, which is going to enable Magneton to Volt Switch farm all the way down. The opponent doesn't make another Blast Burn. We tank the Dragonclaw. Magneton leaves absolutely loaded. The opponent send out Glisserpod. Are you serious? We fire off the first discharge, forcing a Protect Shield. We're going to fire off discharge number 2, which is likely to get both shields off the opponent. We're then going to pivot into Slurpuff and see what the opponent's got lurking in the back for us. Whatever it is likely to be weak to Magneton. The opponent opts to fire off the Liquidation. Before dipping out, the opponent stays in. We hit the charge move. We lose CMP over this next Liquidation. Isn't going to knock out. Is this Play Rough going to be enough to knock out this pesky bug? No, it's not. It's going to be Shadow Claw versus Fairy Wind. Slurpuff wins the fast move beatdown. The opponent's final Pokemon is Walrein. We could send in Chesnaught. However, this is going to be Magneton's time to shine. We're going to shield up the Icicle Spear. And then we're going to return fire. With the discharge, we lag. Holy crap, I thought I was going to get farmed down. We managed to get off the discharge, and discharge lands for huge damage. We pivot out into Chesnaught, and we're going to be able to Vine Whip farm down and take that game. Magneton into Snorlax. I'm going to be unable to catch a clean Super Barrier, as the opponent will get there 1 turn before my 4th Volt Switch. So opt to bank a charge move, pivot out into Slurpuff, and the opponent answers with Shadow Charizard. The opponent being a Shadow is a lot more advantageous for us, as 2 resisted Play Roughs will knock this thing out. We're going to look to call a bait, and hashtag the opponent is not bait, and we get vanquished back to our Pokeball. On the plus side, our Chesnaught is now going to avoid this Charizard. I could have threw the charge move. However, I'm going to opt to get a whole heap of energy together. Snorlax did throw 3 licks at our little cupcakes. They have got a super bank. I pivot out into Chesnaught, hoping to make a catch. Of course, the opponent masturbate me. How rude. And then pivot out into Pidgeot. Yikes. This is such a dreadful matchup for us. The opponent got 2 shields. They don't need to shield this bird. We fire off the first super. The second one, after a debuff, won't be enough to secure the knockout. I think even if we did knock this thing out, it'd be even worse, as the opponent would get even more energy together. I'm going to be forced to respect the potential Brave Bird. I'm going to look to fire off 3 Magnet Bombs, but Snorlax is likely to outpace. I say likely, they will outpace. We fire off the first. We look to farm up to the back-to-back Magnet Bombs. We're actually 1 Volt Switch short of the next charge move. The next Magnet Bomb forces the Protect Shield on the CMP tie. Snorlax reaches the super and the opponent take the dub. GG's to that trainer. Moving on to the next one. Another Charizard in the lead. This opponent instantly pivot out into Swampert, and here comes Chesnaught. As this is the Shadow variant, we should be able to Vine farm them all the way down. The opponent full send the Earthquake. All these Swamperts build up to a potential Sludge Wave. However, who the hell runs Sludge Wave in Ultra League? We can easily tank the next Hydro Cannon. However, the next one will knock us out. I take a little bit more Mud Shot damage to lose all the HP I can possibly lose to try and minimise the farm this Charizard's going to get. Back out comes Charizard. I'm going to fire off the 2 superpowers. Firstly, single resisted rather than double resisted, and every time you throw a super, it lowers your own defense, allowing Charizard minimal farm. Despite Chesnaught being dreadful into Charizard, we've managed to get this thing down into the red. The opponent's now so low that Volt Switch will knock him out. We shield up the Blast Burn. The opponent's final Pokemon is Galarian Moltres. What a cool pick. However, trainer, it isn't your day. We fire off the Magnet Bomb after 2 Volt Switches for optimal fast move timing. The opponent is going to likely shield this. However, we're just going to outpace to the next charge move. The opponent finally throws. We can shield this up. We've got the move banked. The opponent throws the Dark Pulse. They're 1 snarl away from Dark Pulse. Number 2, and this discharge is going to be all she wrote. GG's and thanks for playing. In the next battle, we see Magneton into Greninja. The opponent is staying in, so I'm guessing that ABA weak to electric. So we opt to catch the charge move onto Slurpuff. Slurpuff is kind of our soft counter compared to Chesnaught, which completely walls Greninja. We manage to draw out a Charizard, which does in fact mean they are ABA weak to electric. We land the Play Rough. We're not going to shield Slurpuff. The opponent go for the Dragon Claw bait. Do we make another charge move? We commit to their Play Rough. This Play Rough is going to mean we're going to be able to shield once, Volt Switch farm all the way down and leave a whole heap of energy. The opponent does get the full Wing Attack farm down. We send in Magneton. We're going to shield the potential Blast Burn. Leave absolutely loaded. If the opponent again bring out Greninja, we're going to do the same thing. 2 and switch. The opponent actually choose to send out Trevenant. And Magneton, absolutely loaded, is very good against Trevenant. The first Magnet Bomb lands for huge damage. The second Magnet Bomb will be getting my shield back. The opponent at a potential Shadow Ball. They almost certainly bait me with a Seed Bomb, but I'm just going to shield regardless. So the correct play here would be to throw 2 Volt Switches, pause 2 turns, then switch. However, I'm just lazy. I spam into Chesnaught. The opponent doesn't react quick enough. They throw the Seed Bomb, then pivot out into Greninja. This game's over. The opponent can throw whatever they like. They opt to throw the Hydro Cannon, realise it does absolutely nothing, and then gracefully concede. GG's and thanks for playing. The battle is still tight, but we definitely are not favouring this matchup. I opt to come into Chesnaught, as this is kind of our soft counter, as we do take neutral from all the fighting where a Slurpuff would resist. The opponent answers our Chesnaught save switch with Giratina. Chesnaught hits like a truck with Frenzy Plant, but when it's resisted against something like Giratina, it looks like it tickles. The opponent falls for CMP, so I guess that's something. I attempt to CMP him again, however the opponent isn't stupid enough to fall for it twice. However, it is what it is. If the opponent opts for the full Shadow Claw farm down, Chesnaught is going to make 1 further Frenzy Plant. We should put this into a range where we can Volt Switch farm him down. The opponent gets a huge Shadow Claw farm down. We send in Magneton. The opponent fires off the Shadow Sneak. We are squishy, but Giratina by far is the biggest wet noodle of this league. We tank both Shadow Sneaks and then snipe with Slurpuff and we get a running start. The opponent's final Pokemon is Jellicent in the 2 shield. Do I call a bait? I'm going to respect the Shadow Ball and this absolute ruthless killer cat. Every time you master it, a cat dies. We get baited. You hate to see it. I return fire with the Play Rough and the opponent correctly shields. So the opponent clearly a better masturbator than me. I need some practice. I shield again, respecting the potential Shadow Ball, as that would be the hardest hitting move left in the game. I'm going to continue to try and throw at good time in 1, 4 or 7, and then stay in school kids, learn to count. As I've got no protection, the opponent has no reason to bait. We catch the Shadow Ball onto Magneton, and then going to throw 1 Fairy Wind and the player off. This is either going to knock out or force the final Protect Shield. The opponent can hit that final Protect Shield. It's going to be a race. Slurpuff wins the race. This is going to knock out Jellicent, and it's now going to be all about, can we tank a Stone Edge? We're going to need 2 moves to knock out Cobalion, so I'm just going to continue to overfarm. It's moment of truth time. Do we tank the Stone Edge with enough health to make 2 charge moves? No, we don't. And I get wrecked. GG's, Mr. Opponent. Magneton into Jellicent. Can we get our redemption? This is also a pink fluffy variant. The opponent don't build up to a potential Shadow Ball. We're going to tank the Surf. We're then going to throw 2 Volt Switches and the Discharge for optimal fast move timing. Discharge will be lethal or force of protection. Either's fine for me. The opponent just sack their Jellyfish, then switch out into a Lowland Sandslash, and here comes Slurpuff. So if you played UL Fantasy Cup like I did last season, you know Slurpuff is much more favourable, despite us being a fairy and then being a steel type. I pause a turn, ensuring the opponent can't make a catch. They just completely sack Sandslash, doesn't quite one shot. We get the Fairy Wind farm down, and the opponent send out a Lowland Ninetales. I look to throw 4 Fairy Winds and the Flamethrower, which should be optimal fast move timing. However, it looks like I let a Charm through. I don't know how or why, but it doesn't really matter, as I wouldn't make the other Flamethrower. It's just annoying. We can now send in Chesnaught. We do take super effective from the Charm damage. However, unlike the squishy shadows I'm used to running, Chesnaught tanks Charm for days. This time again we throw 4 fast moves and the charge move. This time not letting a Charm through, which is absolutely beautiful. Thank you very much, game. We make 1 more Frenzy Plant. If the opponent shield this, we'll just get off the Magnet Bomb. The opponent recognises that and gracefully let them move through. GG's and thanks for playing. So those were my battles with a really fun anti-meta team, utilising the new Volt Switch Shadow Magneton. I think Slurpuff is such an unsung hero in this meta. You can see so many of the big content creators promoting these teams that are absolutely core broken by it. So like I said throughout the video, if you built one for UL Fantasy Cup, maybe it wasn't a wasted investment. Dust it off, give it a go, and I guarantee you'll get some wins. If you enjoy my content, smash that like button. If you're new, consider subscribing. If you like your battles featured on my channel, a link to battle submission form is down below. And as always, a huge thank you to everyone for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.